Based on the character from Irish mythology as written about in the Ulster cycle set in the 1st century, in Fate Extella Link, Cu Chulainn is a Lancer-class servant of near unparalleled skill. Equipped with the legendary spear Gaebulg, this fighter can practically fly around the battlefield, utilizing his speed as much as his strength in service of your cause. Although his martial skill is of legend, how well does he really place in a cast as lined with legends as this one? Let's go ahead and find out what he can do and how he stands out. With 6 normal attacks, Cu Chulainn both has one of the longest attack strings, as well as one more unique attack to play with. For his normal string, he will stab forward, dash and stab multiple times, do a quick area spin with his spear, spin back and twirl his lance to his left, do a series of stabs to his front, and then finish with one more big smash to the front. Compared to many others, the amount of distance that Chulainn covers with this attack string is significant. Not dissimilar to certain mounted characters in other Warriors games, his attack hitbox happens in a very straight line, something that makes him great for taking on important foes, but inefficient at gathering KOs. This is both a good and a bad thing. Without any character switching included in the game, Chulainn's overly focused normal attack string is more of a burden than it would be otherwise, simply because you can't switch to a different variety of servant to pick up his slack. Overall, this is kind of a mixed beginning, but let's see if this balances out better through his unique attacks. For his C1 heavy attack, Chulainn will spin his spear to his left, just like he does as part of his normal string. This attack is able to be extended by continuing to press the button, resulting in him adding in a twirl to his right. Even though both of these hits are really only meant to hit in front of you, and at close range, here for once the extendable nature of this C1 actually adds something. If you only do one hit, your enemy will just be damaged, but still slightly stun locked and set up for more attacks right afterwards. If you extend the attack, your enemy will be thrown backwards, which is then meant to be transitioned into a dash continuation, or an active skill that hits at range. Overall, a unique and useful C1. Next up, let's look at his C2 launcher, which is an incredibly fast hit up from the ground. But he himself does not also go into the air. If you choose to jump up in the air after your foe, in midair, he only has 2 attacks, with his finishers sending him quite a distance diagonally. At the cost of moving a little bit wildly, successfully using this kind of finisher can also separate your desired foe from the pack, as well as get you away from enemies creeping up on you. It's a trade-off that I wouldn't necessarily call better or worse than simply slamming straight down. For Chulainn C3, he will do a quick spin and hit with his spear in front of him. This, like his extended C1, is a damager and spacer, but with a much better hitbox than before. Next up, he will do a swipe flying upwards, making this one of the few unique attacks other than his C2, which puts you into the air. After doing this, you can then attack from the air as normal, but I have to say that I find the amazing speed at which he goes from ground to air initially on the attack usually has me accidentally initiating a heavy finisher and flying back down to the ground. It's still good damage either way, but it's always nice to know why you're suddenly zipping around the battlefield. For his C5, Cu Chulainn will do a series of 2 big spear hits, being yet another heavy damager and spacer move. You should be noticing a lot of similarities at this point, but let's set that aside for now. For his final unique attack, he will do a fancy twirl with his spear yet again, before a very heavy attack to the front. For his last move, this one naturally does a lot of damage, but unlike his others, it also has a surprisingly large hitbox, making it his most unique attack, and also a good add. The overall feeling that I get from this collection of unique attacks is that they're just okay. While other characters find spaces to add in variety, incorporating various types of dashes, throwing their weapons, or different area of effect zones, Cu Chulainn keeps his options simple and just hits stuff to his front. We are definitely having a huge lack of area options, so his last chance is to see if his active skills incorporate any of this. In this section, I start with a quick rundown of each servant's active skills alongside the descriptions before getting to my own analysis. Let's go through these real fast. 1. Magic Spear Throw. Throw the spear forward. 2. Spearcraft Fangs of Earth. Dash around freely at high speed and repeatedly attack the enemies around you. 3. Spearcraft Claws of Sky. Stab the spear into the ground, jump up, and come down in a strong slamming attack. 4. Athengabla. Maybe. Greatly increase your attack power for a brief time at the cost of a drop in defense. 5. Spearcraft Punishment of Thorns. Rush forward and stab. Enemies hit by the resulting shockwave will be stunned. 6. Reduced Earth. Teleport forward towards an enemy if locked on. Upon arriving, you will knock back nearby enemies. And 7. Gaebulg. Your spear extends, zigzagging toward the opponent's heart. In many cases, active skills are used to help round out a character's repertoire while also filling in for gaps in their standard playstyle. And if area damage is something that Cu Chulainn lacks, Spearcraft Fangs of Earth fills in for this by both covering a large area on top of being a Lancer class skill, and thus very important for this character to initiate rush attacks with. Unfortunately, none of his other attack skills are as area focused as this one, but at the very least, the long range of Magic Spear Throw or the massive blast of Spearcraft Claws of the Sky can somewhat help out with this task. Guybulk is a good addition only if you feel the need for a second Lancer skill, but if not, I would always go with Fangs. When it comes to his support skills, we have a much more mixed bag. Athengabla, which I definitely can't pronounce correctly, adds the unnecessary trade-off of damage for defense for the sake of lore, which doesn't end up being that bad or good due to Chulainn's already average and equal attack and defense stats. At the max level of 150, they end up being exactly the same at 1500, which is pretty much in the middle when it comes to these characters' final stats. It's a fine thing to add as long as you can play so aggressively as to not need the defense, but without extra attack speed, this skill really struggles to stay worth it, and may just be better off replaced with another attack skill. Spearcraft Punishment of Thorns next takes the cake as one of the worst stun skills in the game, and all of this comes from the running dash that comes right before it. Oftentimes, a stun skill's best usage is on an enemy that you have already been beating up and have a feeling is about to break out of your hitlock and ruin your combo. And so as a result, having this important stun come out after a long dash can sometimes send you past or under your desired target. It's still somewhat functional, but this is a completely unnecessary nerf on a character that didn't already need more restrictions. Last and least, Reduced Earth sucks. Just dash. It says it knocks back enemies, but it doesn't. All in all, when it comes to his active skills, there's not a lot here to love, and even some things to hate, unfortunately. With nothing extra to say about his drive skill and Noble Phantasm, it's time to finally sum up everything and talk about where he stands. This probably won't come as a surprise if you've been paying attention, but Cu Chulainn is kind of bad. I'm not saying that you still can't use him or love him or impassionately defend him in a comment, but straight up, his playstyle is limited, repetitive, and sorely lacks in area damage. Sorry to my Irish watchers who wanted their hometown boy to represent, but when it comes to no character switching type Warriors games, playstyles like this, which lean too heavily in one direction, do not end up being great choices when compared to the rest of the cast. If you're going into one of the few missions which are simply one-on-one fights, then sure, Chulainn's excessive movement and single target focus makes him a fair pick. But on the battlefield missions which want you to do this while also accumulating KOs, using Cu Chulainn just ends up wasting more of your time. This doesn't make him ineffective, it just makes him inefficient, which is enough for me to say that in this cast, he is definitely below average. Maybe he should just stop using cursed spears. It's just a thought.